We about to be talking about, do you have free will, bruh? Two astrophysicists, or however you say that shit, gonna be debating this shit. So we about to put our little 1-2 in it. Feel me?
It is true that at some level of resolution that we can observe, causality is absolutely true. Given these initial conditions, this is what will happen afterwards.
Damn.
That's the physicist in you
That's the
speaking.
physicist in you speaking. So if you take it to its logical conclusions, then
All right.
there
Niggas
is no
already
free will
talking a
because
lot of
everything
smart
is
shit, bruh.
predetermined. Stochastic uncertainty
Stochastic.
in the universe. It's built in. There's randomness, there's unpredictability. Yeah. And so you have to ask, I think,
Chaos.
if you're a physicist, what level of chaos could actually make an instantaneous decision based on other stuff that's not necessarily in your past experiences or what you have just seen in your current environment. Right?
But wouldn't all those past experiences and your current environment your experiences that you have had would then inform your decision about the thing that you've never experienced?
Your inform is the word.
Oh.
Is it
Rather
inform
than
or dictate?
predicate. Right.
Right. Or
Oh.
require. Right. That's the thing there. Yeah.
Oh.
Let's say you're in a room with a whole bunch of audience members. You tell a joke.
Right.
It falls flat. In that moment, you have many things you could do to turn it into a laugh point.
True.
Right? You hear silence and you'd be like, oh, that was good. And then everyone laughs. Or, so you make some
Or
sort
is
of
this
comment.
mic on?
Yeah,
That's
right.
the old one.
Right.
What do
Okay,
you
okay.
do? Do you have the
What does that have to
freedom
do with free will then?
choose one of several
Oh.
choices that you had designed from your past, that you prepared to deal with that eventuality? Or is the choice made for you already?
But if he was less experienced, he might not.
No, but his choice. See, I don't think there's free will, bro. And I used to, but now that I really started thinking about it, it's like what they're basically saying is every experience you've had in your life leading up to every moment where you have to, make a decision. All of that plays into your decision. So is it really you who's making the conscious choice, or is motherfucking, or is it just like because of what you've gone through? So like, bro, they brought up the fucking niggas brought this up, right? If this is first ever fucking skit and he's never done anything, he's never seen a comedy skit, he's probably not gonna know to he's not gonna have the experience to be like, oh, like, is this mic on? But I feel like if he's this like his seventh show or some shit, third show, he's like, okay, even if a joke falls flat, like, I'm gonna not let it get to me, and then that's why he makes the decision to,
Is the choice made for you already?
But if you
make
been in
another
100
joke
cases
through
where
the
you have a
silence.
joke bomb,
Right.
you have data on how to pull out of it.
Exactly.
So statistically, you have a chance of getting people
And it
to
happens
smile.
instantaneously.
Right
You
in
don't
the
even
moment.
realize that it's happening.
It's in the moment.
So
But
it's in the
yeah.
moment. Right.
Did you have free will to not?
See, that's right.
Just got free will to not.
That would be interesting because here you are in a place where your instinct, your training, and
Your
your
10,000
desire,
10,000
the-
hours,
right,
whatever it is.
will, as a reflex, cause you to say this, this, and this, and then people go, "Wow, that was great! Look how he turned it around."
So, Charles,
Right.
can I say in that comment
Yeah.
that he preloaded his neurosynapses so that
What?
in that moment,
They
they
were-
all tripped.
right,
They tripped meaning
Yeah,
triggered
yeah.
to
Yeah,
go
the
to the
neurosynapses,
solution to
bro.
that problem.
right.
The same is true.
But
for,
then I wouldn't have free will at that point.
That's
It
what
would
I'm
just
saying.
be a response. What I would have is a response to a
That's right.
situation.
Yeah,
not
exactly,
necessarily
bro.
I wasn't really choosing that.
It
I-
chose it for you.
It chose it
you
for me.
you have 5 choices, and then your system chooses one of the 5.
And
In
that's
that
not
moment.
that's
in
not
that
free
moment,
will.
right? And so in that moment, you are not exercising free will.
That's what.
Did you set it up though with free will in the past so that
The
you
fuck
could
is this nigga
react
talking
this
about?
way deterministically, but you actually were in control of the circumstance? Right. Here's another physical example of that.
Yeah,
A
we
football
need-
player is trying
Okay.
to sack a quarterback.
Okay,
The quarterback jukes left.
that's
the-
a cool.
Person trying to sack the QB doesn't have enough time to think about whether to move left or right or up or down. It has to react based on years of training and practice and experience. So in that moment, that action is not free. But in the setting up of that moment, if it was free enough, does that constitute free will? From a physics
I don't really
perspective,
understand what he just asked,
it
bro. I'm
might
not gonna
not.
lie.
Then again, from a
That's not free
psychological
will,
point
bro.
of view, or from a biological
It's
point
not
of view,
free will.
it might.
Wait, what good are you if you're not landing on one side or the other?
Yeah.
I don't need you to say, it could be this, it could be that. And I'm right both ways.
Yeah.
Whichever the actual answer is, I was right.
Yeah. Well, he's saying I don't really have the free will to make that determination. I'm going to be right or wrong.
Let's just ask an opinion. In
This
my
nigga
opinion,
kick.
I would like to have free will exist in this universe.
Okay, so you're just being biased,
Even though
bro. Everybody would.
philosophically it can be argued that it does not exist.
Are you happy with a world where you perceive free will even if it isn't?
Maybe.
Ooh.
This has to do with the movie Arrival, right, starring Amy Adams,
Yes.
where if you know how your future is going to turn out, would you like to live your life anyway? Right?
That is true. But I feel like even in that sense, if you find like, let's say you find out your life ends, I'm not gonna wanna I'm not gonna wanna, but that's all gonna play into how you live your life. Like, bro, and that's an experience. So if you hear, yeah, I'm about to die, like I'm gonna die getting on a bus like in 15 years, like on January 1st, 2030, bro, there is literally no way in hell that in January 1st, 2030, you are going to get on a bus. And that's you don't like, there's no way.
The answer is yes.
And you might be like, oh, I could get on the bus. But it's like, you know what I'm
I
saying?
still
Is
would
that
like to
really
think
free
that
will?
The future is not yet predetermined.
No, but I know what? It's different. I'm not saying it's predetermined and you know it.
Mhm.
I'm saying, would you still be happy with life if some alien said, look, dude, your life is predetermined. There's nothing you can do about it. Keep on believing you have free will, and then they go back to their planet.
You're a puppet on a string.
A puppet on a string
That's
from a free will
from
puppet.
You're a free will puppet on a string.
What I would say in that case is that I would hope that the knowledge that I have that puppet on the string circumstance allows me to circumvent it.
Bro,
I
what
can
the
find
fuck
a
is this
way.
nigga
If-
talking about?
You know, it's fate, right? You've seen so many Greek mythology stories where you try to avoid the fate of whatever the gods have
And
destined
the act
for
of
you.
avoiding it
The
makes
act
it
of
happen.
avoiding
Makes it
happen.
happen.
Like Oedipus, for example.
Oedipus
Right.
Right.
would be the most
Famous of those.
egregious
Yeah.
example. Yes.
Sorry.
So the bottom line is, yes, I would still be satisfied with trying to do something different because even
I mean, but then in the act of trying to live a life of no free will, bro, you don't have free will. You see what I'm saying? It's like you just going in loops,
the
bro.
illusion of trying to do something different.
And like that all plays into an experience on decisions you make in the future, bro.
is in
It's
itself
like-
a form of free will.
But
Physics-wise,
even I think what it really is, bro, is like, okay, you don't have free will, bro. And that might sound like terrifying at first, but like knowing if you do or don't doesn't really change anything, bro. Like you're not gonna change how you live. Like they're kind of saying you're always gonna have that illusion of like a decision, bro. So if anything, I feel like what's important is just it's not really about having free will, but like let's say like it's going up to girls, bro. If you always scared to go up to girls, then at some point it's probably going to be okay. You going to decide to go up to a girl because it's like I want to change how I live. I don't want to be scared anymore. I'm sick of always, being introverted and like playing passive when I need to try and talk to people. And like in that time, you might be like, okay, that's free will. You get to make the decision to go talk to them, whether it is or isn't, bro. Like your experience of you lacking that interaction of, trying to approach someone is then going to cause you to be a better person where you want to be anyway. So
Yes,
does
that's
it,
the
does
challenge,
any of this
right?
really matter?
So Neil,
You know what I'm
if
saying?
you had to right now decide that free will does exist or doesn't exist, what would you prefer?
My thinking over the recent years, because I didn't used to think about this at all. My thinking over recent years is leaning towards the absence of free will for practically everything we think and do in our lives. And I base that on the fact that over time, things that we have done as people in our species at one time was you are totally to blame for that, or just something you did or something we've learned, no, this person is more susceptible than you are to addiction.
Right.
There's a biochemistry there. This person cannot just be
Yeah.
made the life of the party because they're on the autism spectrum. They don't control that in the way you might think they should, just because you're the life of the party. As you add up all of these things, let's go back to epilepsy, where before that was even a word, you were occupied by the devil. Did you do something bad? Or, well, you knew it was not everyone knew you were not in control of it. But today, no one is saying, did you have the free will to not have an epileptic seizure? Of course not. Do you have the free will to not be depressed? The person who's ready to jump off the bridge, in that instant, do they have the free will to not jump off the bridge? I don't think so. And the more I add up and explore the human condition, I'm forced to conclude that the direction we are headed is that we are all products of an absence of free will. And as a result, society needs more compassion for people who do not otherwise fit in.
Wow. I completely agree with this nigga.
Exact opposite.
Nah, you're stupid. I don't want to hear from you, bro. See, because me and my mans be talking about this, bro. It's like, bro, a lot of times, like, people do things and, like, and especially in terms of, like, being inconsiderate or, like, doing something you might not agree with. Bro, a lot of the times, like, people literally are not as aware as others and, like, people just don't know. Like, it's just kind of like, for instance, it's learning how to accept, like, people for who they are, in the sense of some people is literally like, there could be somebody who steps on your shoe, like in a party, bro, and you're like, all right, like, can you not step on my shoe? They're like, okay. And they just step on your shoe and step on your shoe. Yeah, that's inconsiderate, but in their head, can you fully blame them? Like, can you fully blame people for lack of awareness? And obviously you can do what you have to do. It's like, if somebody keeps stepping on your shoe, you don't like it, you're going to back up. But there's a difference between you and your response to somebody. Like, if somebody's doing something that is negatively impacting your life, you should always make the decision to remove that or do something that avoids them negatively impacting you, right? But can you blame them for their lack of awareness? And it's like, kind of like what this nigga Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? Kind of like he's saying, you literally cannot blame these people because they don't even think about it. That's where it's like, life is really crazy.
It is because of the absence of free will that you see in most behavior, that it is that 1% of free will activity that moves us in the right direction, bends us toward compassion, takes the arc of history toward justice.
But but going back to what Neil just said, there are people who actually suffer from personality disorders, that suffer from brain disorders, where they can't do what you just said. They can't express compassion.
Be compassionate or considerate.
When no one even thought to analyze it that way, as a brain disorder.
Yeah, you were just an a-hole.
Yeah, exactly.
That was it.
Now, if they can't, you can. You can show that person compassion. Or
no, you can't,
therefore,
bro. You cannot. You can't do that, bro. This is the thing. You could tell them and they might be like, oh, okay, you're right. I'm going to change this and that. I'm not saying people don't change, and that all goes into experiences and how they act in the future. But you cannot teach somebody real consideration and, like, awareness, bro. You just can't. You cannot. It's like, if somebody is blind or they can barely make something out, you can tell them maybe how you see and how you make stuff better. And they're going to try their best, but at the end of the day, they're blind. There's nothing you can do about that.
Free will as an entity exists.
Charles, you're drawing a line that I have seen be in constant motion over the decades and over the centuries. That line that you're saying, they don't have free will, but I do. I don't know that I can.
See, I have free will over some things and not over others. Okay. Someone can see me and say, that person needs help in this way and has the free will to help me. I see somebody else who needs this help and free will. Together, it is a network. I don't agree with this nigga at all. It's not that any individual.
So you have to draw the line for every individual and even perhaps for society.
Okay.
Does the criminal who's born in poverty have free will to not be a criminal? If most of the people in prison came in below the poverty line.
Great
So there's some
question.
sociological force
Right.
operating there
So this
that,
is
that where we are less susceptible to that force.
I think that's a great question, analogy. Let's say this. Say those folks who have been branded criminals by our society are incarcerated.
Yes.
We can then, who we're fortunate enough not to face those same circumstances, who are not incarcerated, can look at these incarcerated people and instead of saying we must keep them away from society, welcome them back.
So that's called restorative justice.
Yeah,
that's
and
what
that's
you
a free will example of the exercise of free will
Of society.
of society toward individuals who may not have had the options, had the life experience to recover from a bombed joke.
I saw an old movie
Yeah.
where there's a guy who was a junkie.
Yeah.
Right? And he needed help.
Mhm.
But they said, no, the cops came and arrested him
Yeah.
because he was a junkie.
Right.
Today, you wouldn't do that.
Right.
You would say the person needs help.
They need
Right.
Right.
They're-
Even if that person
Treatment.
had robbed somebody, that person needs treatment.
Right.
And the people who cannot shake whatever it is that afflicts them tells me that free will cannot be as free as we think it is. Do you remember the shooter in the University of Texas at Austin?
I remember that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a movie they made out of it called The Tower,
Yeah.
where he left a note saying, "I just want to kill people. Something must be wrong with my brain. Please, when I die, find out."
look into this.
They looked, and there
Wow.
was a tumor putting pressure on a part of them. In fact, that's how we learn anything about how the brain works when
And
you have
this
situations like this.
Person
was-
had the free will
he
to
didn't
write
have the free
a
will.
note.
No, you're an idiot, bro. What are you talking about? Bro, just because you have semi-awareness that there's something controlling you that you can't fully control does not mean that you have free will. Because if there was a tumor, that means the tumor grew. So there was a time where he remembered not having an insatiable hunger to just kill people. So that's probably why he wrote the note. That's very interesting, though. Like, that's crazy. Because there's nothing like it was pushing on his brain, and that just made him want to kill people. And like, you can blame him. Yeah, like he could have tried to fight that urge, but kind of like what Tyson was saying about like addiction and shit. And it's like, people who do drugs, like, it's bad for you, but you literally cannot stop. That's why it's addiction. That's why you need outside help, restorative justice, with criminals. It's like there's some things that are literally out of your control.
He had the free will
And
to
that's-
write the note.
That's lack of
But
free
he's
will.
He did not have the will to resist
Look, this nigga
shooting.
Tyson,
But
he thinks
that's
this nigga is
the
stupid.
line that you were talking about is a partial one.
Why isn't that line always in motion as we learn more and more about how the mind
It
works?
is. It is.
Okay, so then maybe it's a line of convenience today, but tomorrow we're going to find out, oh my gosh, that person has no real free control
It's
over their behavior, over their personality,
It's-
over their
Mhm.
tendencies, over their treatment of others.
it's not a line of convenience.
It's like, bro, if some of y'all are, holy fuck. Wow. Anyways, like people who are introverts versus extroverts. Like, yeah, there's ways you could go about trying to force yourself to be more extroverted and more outgoing as an introvert. But like, you cannot just become an extrovert. And I think that's where it's like there's that lack of free will. You cannot just become like, you know what I'm saying? Even with your feelings, if you're sad, you can't just become happy. There's ways you could try and train your mind and start to learn to accept and be content with other things in life. But you cannot just feel or switch how you are and how your personality is. That is something that is like genetically coded into you. So
in your words, a perimeter of ignorance. When Newton said we couldn't explain certain things,
Right.
God must have done it.
Of course.
That's a God of the gaps.
Of course.
That delineates what we don't know. The line you describe, I hope, is in fact that perimeter
But
of
you're saying
ignorance
it, you
which we
hope.
slowly are moving toward.
you're not thinking
and moving
unbiasedly.
so that we do understand what the true nature of free will is.
So this is where people will push back. Most people are concerned not about the actions, but the consequences. So what they're thinking about is the punitive response to someone who does something wrong. And is a punitive response a deterrent for somebody doing something wrong? or
I don't know
what
or
punitive
doing something
means.
wrong in
I'm
the
not
future.
looking at shit.
especially if they don't have the free will.
Right.
So there's the other side of this entire analysis is how does society interact with people who are being brought into the circle day by day. We're learning what we have control over and what we don't,
Yes.
biophysiologically, intellectually, emotionally.
Yes.
Why do people need anxiety meds? Or do they have the freedom to
Because
not
they have
be
children. That is why. That is
Still
why
on meds.
I'm
You on
telling you,
extra dose?
I'm taking them every
I'm not
day.
old enough to think that's funny,
I
bro.
got 3 reasons that I take them every day.
Some kids need them because they have parents.
No.
I'm just saying.
Hells yeah.
Okay, so
the first
Charles,
thing
if
I
we're gonna
agree with
exit
this
this
nigga.
conversation.
Yeah.
If we find a point of agreement, it's that this perimeter of ignorance, we recognize inside the perimeter there are forces operating against free will,
Yes.
our physiology, our neurochemistry,
Yes.
and physics.
Yes.
That surely that perimeter may grow,
Yes.
but it's possible.
Okay, they started to get into semantics, bro. But nah, ain't no such thing, bro. But it's like, again, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Like, you don't have to derive anything negative from that. But free will, bro, shit might be good. I ain't gonna lie, bro. It's cool.